at Rock Valley College as the qualified mental health professional on campus and help to develop the behavior intervention team there. They have names that are similar throughout the university system, and they were born of the February 14th, 2008 tragedy on NIU's campus, which I also survived. I was on campus that day. And it was that experience and my mental health background that led me to set up those intervention teams at my particular college. I think that there's opportunity to take what we know about risk assessment, take what we know about assessing whether or not a person poses any threat to our campus or our society, and apply that to the admissions process. And in so doing, effectively banning the box in terms of admission to higher education. And as I mentioned before, nonviolent offense of being in possession of a controlled substance is what will get you eliminated from the opportunity to pursue financial aid institutionally as well as from the state and federal government. But an individual who may have posed an actual physical violent threat to someone else may never lose their financial aid. I'm not saying I advocate for that either, but I'm simply stating that there are many ways that we already know that have been standardized and exist for us to assess the risk on campuses, and we could do that instead of just a simple checkbox on a college application.
There's 70 million people, or 1 in 3 adults, who have an arrest or a conviction. We need to ensure that folks with past conviction have access to opportunity in our state. President Obama took executive action to ban the box at federal agencies. Some of my colleagues on the panel and in the General Assembly took action to ban the box and prevent employers and employment agencies from inquiring about past criminal convictions until they've reached a point in the application process where they're deemed qualified. We should definitely take that step and ban the box when it comes to applying to colleges and universities. There are ways that we can do that without compromising the safety on our campuses. So thank you again, Courtney, for that great question, and the answer is yes.
And certainly, as Representative Wallace mentioned earlier, the Student Access Bill, when we first signed on as co-sponsors of the bill, actually had a provision that talked about being able to ban the box and allow people to be able to apply. And we still support that effort, and JB and I both would support that effort to make sure that in banning the box we can expand access to higher education for all students. But I also just want to talk a little bit about, I talked earlier about how important it is to continue to connect the dots around these issues, and I think about the criminal justice plan that JB and I have put out that's really comprehensive, and one of the things that I'm really proud of is it includes establishing an Office of Criminal Justice Reform and Economic Opportunity, which I would be tasked with leading. I was having a conversation earlier, somebody said, well, what does a lieutenant governor do? Well, the statute doesn't have a lot, but one thing that JB and I both agreed on is that this is something I'm so passionate about. We wanted an actual office to be established to work on criminal justice, and not just criminal justice, but combined with economic opportunity. Because when you have economic opportunity, you're much less likely to enter the criminal justice system. And when you have economic opportunity, when you come out of the system, you're much less likely to cycle in and out of the system. So we have to look at criminal justice broadly, and we look at access to education in 30 seconds. Last year, a couple of the bills that I was the chief sponsor of and got signed into law included one banning preschool expulsion because preschoolers were getting expelled, disproportionately Black and brown youth. So that leads to not having access to education. I passed a bill that got signed into law that bans school-based booking stations because too many schools in Chicago had police booking stations right on the campus, and now that's banned in Chicago. And I'm glad to work with Chicago Votes this year, who's one of the co-sponsors. We just had our press conference last week to allow people in jail to be able to continue to be civically engaged and be able to vote from county jails. And my time is up.
In general, I feel that once a person has paid his debt to society, if he's a felon in prison and he's paid his debt, he should be accepted as much as possible into the rest of society. He should be allowed to work, go to college, or whatever. there should not be any discrimination against him because he's a felon. If you do this, she is able to get a job, earn more money, pay taxes, be less of a burden on society. So in general, I think we should ban the box and stop this discrimination. Of course, if you legalize marijuana to start with,
You are on a roll.
thank you very much. If we legalize that to start with, an awful lot of these fellows wouldn't exist in the first place. Thank you very much.